about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. Okay, so a lot to get to today, but before we begin, one thing that has kind of struck me as odd is when it comes to conflict resolution, the most common thing I hear, whether it's when I wait at tables, tended bar, in the medical field, the most common statement I heard whenever I brought up that there was an issue, somebody's complaining about this, somebody doesn't like X, Y, and Z, the most common thing I was told is to, quote, tell them to go blank themselves. Now, I did most of my young adulting in the 90s. That's just what everybody said. Tell them to go blank themselves. Tell them to go blank themselves. And I'm hearing this also with the younger generations too. Now, somebody needs this done with this. Well, did you tell them to go blank themselves? And I find that fascinating because it really doesn't solve the problem. Or does it? So, there might be some, we might think, what is that? There might be some genius ingenuity to the lunacy of it all. So every time I had an issue, table 20, I'd go up to the chefs, the cooks. Table 20 said the steak was overcooked. Well, did you tell them to go blank themselves? I got an overcooked steak. That doesn't solve the situation. It solves it for me. I'm like, we need a new steak. And so I'm wondering if the patients in the waiting room complaining that the wait is too long. Well, did you tell them to go blank themselves? No, I didn't, because it's a medical office. It's a hospital. We don't do that here. It exemplifies and it implies some pretty serious sort of things going on. Number one is, you are presenting an issue and you're not giving a solution on how to fix it. So when somebody tells you, you need to go tell them to go whatever, now it's on you to solve the problem. This is one of the reasons why I, a lot of times, don't even bring problems up to other people. And I'm like, I'm just going to fix it myself because I'm tired of being tasked with the duty of telling somebody to go blank themselves. Especially when I don't think that's going to solve the problem. Number two, from the person who I am going up to help, to have assistance with the problem and needing to execute a solution to this, it suggests that they don't want to be bothered. That their only solution to the problem is not redoing the steak or managing patient flow. It's to tell that person that they should not necessarily be doing the behavior they're doing and offering an alternative behavior. Now, somebody could say, but you see, Dr. Dahlia, that's wise. Okay, you can't just tell somebody to do status quo. Wait, not like the steak. You're giving them something to actively do. That does help to give somebody something to actively do. You just can't have them do that. Blanking oneself is not appropriate. But then now you're stuck. So here you are, you're trying to fix a problem. The person you're going to is, not providing. So what I would always answer is, yes, I did. Say what? You asked if I told them to go blank themselves. I did. But that didn't resolve the issue. So do you have any other suggestions for the overcooked meat? Like maybe a new steak, right? Well, go tell them to do it again. It's not as effective that way. So I need something else. Well, so that sometimes I was told, well, why don't you go? And I'm like, look, do you need me to get back there and cook it myself or remake the drink? The drink's too weak. All right, let me just remake the drink. Now, eventually, you get the person to do what they need to do. But I'm noticing now a newer generation, because if my generation, Gen X, said that so proliferatively, Gen Z, that's probably one of the biggest, the number one go-to in problem solving. First thing you do is tell the person who's having the issue to go blink themselves. And I've been hearing this, from students and my kids and my kids' friends. So somebody said this, so I told them to go blank themselves. And I go, have you guys solved any problems? Have you had any successful resolutions to issues? But the idea of we'll just tell them blank and the problem will go away. No, it doesn't work that way. By the way, when did this even come from? We talked about how some of the dirty words that we use and the curse words have, century old origins. Apparently, the first documented case, and I can't confirm this, of somebody telling somebody else to go blank themselves, I think was back in 1918, where a soldier told his commanding officer. I think he got court-martialed for that. So apparently there is some documentation somewhere that this is an over 100-year-old piece of advice or a suggestion to conflict resolution. But I'm noticing more and more, you bring up a problem, and the first thing that comes to somebody's mind is the profanity or telling that other person. I mean, it's almost, it's very confrontational, but it's like somebody has an issue, and it's a simple issue. It could be a little old grandma. I can't tell you how many times people told me to tell somebody, right? That could have been a little grandma, having a concern to go blank themselves. It's very isolationist, very hostile, very confrontational, non-effective problem solving. Unless the ingenious to it is it forces the person that's going up to somebody else to solve the problem yourself. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. Because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. We'll help you find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. If you were hurt in a car accident, truck accident, motorcycle accident, rideshare accident, slip and fall, or any other type of accident, call our 24/7 hotline now and let us help you find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-978-6800. That's 800-978-6800. 800-978-6800. I'm Gina Hart, here with spokesman Jack Mercer. So Jack, tell our listeners who should give us a call right now.
Well, Gina, first off, thank you for having me join you here in the studio. It's always great to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. The call is free, the consultation is free, and with our no-fee guarantee, you pay nothing unless we win you money.
That's great advice. Thanks, Jack. And is it true that the Legal Help Center is open 24/7?
That's right, Gina. We're open anytime you need us, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now and let us help you find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-978-6800. That's 800-978-6800. 800-978-6800. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. Not available in California. May not be available in all states.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So the Congo's Ebola outbreak has now the largest number of confirmed cases within the first month of any episode of the disease. Now, this isn't the largest outbreak to date, but this is the highest number of individuals within the first month. Not a good sign. This is according to the World Health Organization. The Budi-Bugyo outbreak of in the Democratic Republic of Congo has now infected over 1,000 people and has killed 267 of them. The outbreak was declared on May 15th, but experts believe it was circulating for months prior. According to Reuters, World Health Organization's Abdirahman Mahmoud told a press briefing in Geneva that part of the reason for the scale of the outbreak was that some early confirmed cases were in urban centers like Bunia and the mining town of Mongboalu. Many past outbreaks have first been identified in rural areas and often petered out quickly. So, it's interesting because you'd think, well, if it was in an urban area, then somebody would have gone to a hospital or a medical center where they would have been able to identify it and diagnose it and alert public officials sooner. Whereas, in a village, some people might self-treat or word might not get out. On the other end, they're saying because it didn't start in a rural area or they think the early cases were more urban, it spread faster before it got diagnosed. So that's an interesting point of view of that. There's been a quick increase in the number of Ebola beds to over 500 in the past 2 weeks. Signs of community resistance and violent resistance to Ebola responders was starting to abate. One issue that they've been having are some of these terrorists or activists have been attacking medical centers where Ebola patients are. It's frightening that this happens. The two largest previous Ebola outbreaks was the one in West Africa, in Guinea, Sierra Leone, and Liberia, which killed 11,000 people between 2014 and 2016. There was another outbreak in the Congo in 2018, but now we have at least 1,000 cases in the first month. It's concerning. 267 people die. Still too many, but not to the degree of the previous Ebola outbreaks. So the International Organization for Migration's Abdullah Won said that the same briefing that at least 25 cases have been confirmed at 3 of Eastern Congo's crowded displacement camps. 14 people died there. So some of these camps were facing overcrowding, and many individuals that are there then sadly get exposed. 4 children have died in one of the Kaigonzi camps. The tests have not come back if it was Ebola or not. We've known about Ebola since the 70s. It's been around probably prior, but it was identified in the 70s. And there's been over 20 outbreaks, larger outbreaks since. Nothing to the degree that we saw with 2014 and 2016, but this is looking like this might be the second biggest. We will keep you posted as we get more information. We do have some good news. The quarantine has come to an end for, I believe, the last of the hantavirus ship passengers in Nebraska. I believe they met their 42 days. They say, according to AP News, the last American passengers who endured 42 days in a specialized hospital quarantine unit. The Nebraska facility, I believe, is the same one, I believe, at the University of Nebraska that they were using for Ebola patients back in 2014, 2015. But the last 8 passengers who were, quarantining because of the MV Hondius exposure to hantavirus, I believe, has gotten to go home. 3 people died in that outbreak. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services confirmed the end of the quarantine. They collaborated among federal, state, and local partners, and that's good news. More than 120 people had to be evacuated from the ship in Spain's Canary Islands last month, including the 18 Americans who ended up at the National Quarantine Unit in Omaha. Most were from other countries, but there were Americans on board. 30 other passengers left the ship before the outbreak was documented, but many of them could quarantine at home. That included 7 Americans. When the ship eventually docked to the Netherlands, 25 crew members and 2 medical personnel were on board. I believe a total of 13 people in this cluster got the virus, including the 3 who died. I think I want to really, really commend health officials. I think the ship handled it poorly, but I believe health officials did a pretty good job. If you remember, Angela Perryman was one of the American passengers who was upset that she had to remain in quarantine. She felt she was held against her will, against the recommendation of one government medical expert. And, she said that, she said in an interview Monday that passengers were told that the quarantine monitoring period ended Sunday at 2. She left on a flight that evening, but some people were flying out Monday. She said, we were locked in our rooms until 1:55, and at 2 o'clock, okay, everybody walk out and go home. And I know there's been a lot of back and forth with this. One concern we had with COVID was, when this all started, the lack of control, the government control, the inability to have your own individual rights of, look, I don't think I'm sick. When it comes to public health, that's when the government can usurp, a lot of the rules. The privacy, for example. If somebody, let's say, has an STD, it's a reportable illness, so that gets reported to the CDC, and then the CDC, or the local health department reaches out to, contact any contacts of that person, and that's also what the local health department did with COVID. And I get on one side, you want to protect others. And if somebody doesn't know that they were exposed, you want to let them know so they don't expose to others. When it comes to epidemiology, you really want to control the spread of things. But on the other end, you have something that you're dealing with that's kind of private, and now a whole floor of a building knows. And you don't seem to have that privacy. I remember getting texts saying somebody you were exposed to had COVID, so you need to quarantine for 14 days. And I'm like, who? How did you get my number? Who was around me? And remember, that was at the time where people needed to work. We didn't know. We did not want to not work. We didn't want to spread illness. But I'm like, I'm working from home. You want me to quarantine? Who was I around? What's going on here? And, it was a mess. With hantavirus, they wanted to control the outbreak, and how public officials do this is, there's going to be more people upset if there's a bigger outbreak, and people get fired if you let this outbreak continue, than the individuals who feel their rights were violated and that have to be locked up in a hotel room. And so they're always going to go with the lesser of two evils. They're going to go with the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance is public health policy. So, your job is to, not get exposed if you can. I mean, if there are sick individuals on a ship, and you have an option to, maybe leave the ship and dock and go, and leave from that dock, go home, you might want to consider that, because once, public officials get a hold of you, and understandably so, they're going to want to protect you and protect others. Look at Ebola. If Ebola comes here, I want to know if I was exposed to Ebola. We don't really have a cure for it. There are some monoclonal antibodies. We don't really have a good vaccine. That ZMapp apparently failed clinical trials. And with this strain, we don't know how effective that is. So they do have some treatments, but it's not as cut and dry. And so, God forbid Ebola comes here. They're going to lock us down, or they're going to really try and isolate those cases, and understandably so. But well done on curbing this hantavirus thing, especially since it was one that possibly spread person to person. 3 people died. That was scary for a moment there. So, but that you will not be able to argue your case for personal rights. That's what happened with the COVID vaccine. There was a Supreme Court ruling in the early 20th century that ruled against somebody who was fined for not getting the smallpox vaccine. He didn't want to get the smallpox vaccine. And how did they vaccinate for smallpox? They gave you smallpox. He's like, I don't want that. They gave you attenuated, weakened smallpox for the smallpox vaccine. He didn't want that. And he got fined, and the court ruled against him because public health came first, which is why we need to make sure that our public health experts are using the most proper science. Otherwise, they could take advantage. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook the Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So the Iran deal, not a good one. I think a lot of us are not happy. We thought that the Iran regime would be gone, hopefully, right? Any money or any assistance that they would get, whether it was from frozen funds or not, would help the new Democratic government. Hopefully, no more beheadings and killings and rapes and attacks of the Iranian people, and a new good, quote, normal, non-terrorist government runs Iran. That didn't happen. We did, however, make some huge gains, and I do credit Trump for this. Knocking their nuclear capabilities significantly, knocking their military down, killing some of their horrible leaders, pausing some of the murder and terrorism they did on their own people, and as well as neighboring countries. And also showing, our strength, our military ability, and showing Iran's weakness, what Iran really cares about. And Iran has been showing their hand, and we've learned a lot from this regime. We've learned that they're very, very unorganized, but they're still very present, and that there's a lot of disagreement in between whoever appears to be working with the U.S. and negotiating with the U.S. to whoever's actually running the terrorist aspect of their government. And so a big concern people had is part of this agreement with Iran is they will be getting billions of dollars of unfrozen assets and money that they could use. And of course, none of us really want them to, we don't want to be giving the money with taxpayer dollars. And Trump said it's not our tax dollars. But the last thing we want to do is fund them doing more terrorism. They're funding Hezbollah, funding Hamas, helping Russia. That's not where we want the money to go. We have this issue with Hamas running things in Gaza, the aid that Israel was sending and that U.S. was sending. Same thing with Afghanistan. The Taliban was taking the aid. Yeah, how do we know that people will get the aid themselves? So what Trump said is the money that's going to be unfrozen is going to go for food and medical supplies for the Iranian population, not to the leaders. Well, Iran doesn't like that. So there's apparently now a more of a back and forth. Apparently, U.S. and Iranian negotiators met in Switzerland this weekend. And so this dispute over the billions and potentially unfrozen Iranian assets are going to actually, see how strong this this deal is. I'm telling you right now, there's no deal. That when you're dealing with, a very chaotic leadership, we don't even know who's in charge, and you have terrorists, at the helm. That you can't trust anything they say. So we got to be smart about what we're doing here. According to Iran International, President Mahmoud Pezeshkian said that $6 billion of our funds in Qatar will be returned. Trump, who has tried to deny Iran its rights, acknowledged them in a recent speech. And Iran has said that they are going to be in control of the funds, not the U.S. So now there's these different narratives. What the problem we've been having is Trump is saying, this is what we've done, this is what's going to happen, but Iran has different messaging. So and that's one thing we have learned about terrorists. We saw this with Hamas. Remember, Hamas tried to say Israel bombed one of their hospitals when we saw on the video it was coming from their side. It was, the narratives are going to be different. Iran is not going to say, Israel has us by the cojones, so we're gonna do what they say, and they're not going to say that. They're going to want to make it look like and repitch this, even though some of American media is doing this, where Iran won the war and America is surrendering. I've even seen American media say that the U.S. is surrendering to Iran. No wonder Iranians are like, great, let's take that, and we'll tell our people that. And then the people in Iran haven't had access to internet, haven't had access to the outside world. So when you look at what the deal is, where we're going in to inspect them and remove the nuclear dust and keep an eye on them, Iran's not going to agree to that. And we know that they are going to be doing shenanigans. Why? Because they have missions, and their missions is terror. That's what they do. The fact that they have no problem killing their individuals. They're as I said, there were nurses and doctors who were raped and murdered for taking care of people coming into the hospital that actually got wounded during the protest. This is what you're doing to your people. So what should they do? What ended up happening, and I think we all saw this happen, is U.S. was making some major military gains, and then a school gets bombed, and everything started to slow down after that. Because obviously the U.S. does not want to, be, and I know, in Gaza, Hamas would hide behind schools and put their headquarters under hospitals and things like that. But we did not want to fall for that with Iran. The problem is as things scaled back, Iran's like, okay, that's their kryptonite. All right, like Superman. Remember General Zod was like, so that's Superman's weakness. It's the people. All right, Trump does not want to look like he's killing innocent civilians, especially when he's doing this to kind of help the Iranian people. So once, some of these other casualties were happening, Trump started backing off. And then they took control of the Strait of Hormuz, and they dealt with Iran economically. Well, dealing with Iran economically and sanctioning them was very effective because he got Iran to talk. And it also got Iran to lessen some of their rhetoric as well as some of their fighting, and so and bombings and drones and things like that. So I don't think we should let up. I think we should squeeze them economically. And if there are any unfrozen assets, I agree with Trump that it should go to the people. But you can't just give them the money like what we did with Taliban or whatever, and in Afghanistan, and say, here, okay, this has to go to the people per the deal. No, what you need to do is buy the food with their assets from American producers, which is something that some people have already suggested. You buy the American food, You buy these supplies and then you ship them in to the people. And have it something that they can't sell, where they could confiscate it and then try to turn it around and sell it to another country to get money for arms. Don't just give them cash. And somebody can say, well, Iran deserves their cash. They do deserve no, not if they're killing their people. Okay, we're giving, we are unfreezing their assets for the people, but we're just, because we're in a position of control now, making sure that the people are getting food. They are getting infrastructure. They are getting stability. So I think that can be done. I'm sure Iran's not going to be happy about it. But what America needs to understand is that there is no way Iran is going to follow any deal to a T. You can't trust them. So we need to ourselves take this on. If they say, we'll let you know when you could come and inspect us. No, that's not, so they could clean up everything and say, you go here, you go here. No, if surprise inspections are surprise inspections. But see, the problem is we really need that government out. Okay, I mean, we now have we still have terrorists at large. We still have this regime in play, and they want a nuclear weapon, especially since they've already told their people, no, we never agreed to no nuclear weapon. So, we've made huge gains, but not to the degree that we need to. And what Trump is dealing with now is, he wants gas prices down, before the next election, the midterms. And so there's kind of a lot of pieces at play, but don't be giving terrorists money. No. You want to help the people, actually buy the food and medical supplies and ship it to Iranian people. That's what I would do. 1-877-Doc-Dolly.
Hi, everyone. Super Bowl champ Vernon Davis here from Legal Help Center. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up, because we have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. You can find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. The call is free, the consultation is free, and you can speak with a live agent right now. So if you or someone you know were injured in an accident of any kind, call now to find out if you have a case and how much you could potentially get.
Thanks, Vernon. You heard it, folks. If you've been injured, call and find out how much you qualify for. Call 800-679-0800. That's 800-679-0800. 800-679-0800. Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states. Not available in California.
Increase fuel economy up to 7.9% with Hot Shot's Secret Gasoline Extreme, the solution to maximize your engine's performance and fuel economy. Whether you're driving a sports car or a daily commuter, Gasoline Extreme is specially formulated with PEA to deep clean. Don't settle for an average driving experience. Upgrade to Hot Shot's Secret Gasoline Extreme and go further on each tank. Order now on Amazon or HotShotSecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
To protect his family from disaster, Steve used his camera phone. By taking pictures of his important documents, Steve can always have them stored online. Learn more simple disaster prep tips at ready.gov. A message from FEMA and the Ad Council.
On the Dr. Dahlia Show, 1-877-Doc-Dolly, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So one of my listeners says they agree with, me and AI and what I had suggested in terms of, efficiency, but, are we fueling, the fire with it? And I don't want to go too much into what the email says, but we talked about yesterday how 18 children's undiagnosable diseases was solved by AI. And I'm embarrassed that the medical community needed AI to solve the problem. And we doctors, this is why we have specialists. I'm a family doctor, so I'm more, and I don't like the jack of all trades master of none, because some of us family docs are really, really good at certain diseases and things that we treat. But we're supposed to be able to, when somebody walks in, know, enough medicine to manage anything from their scalp to their tippy toes. And so we, whether it's orthopedics, whether it's endocrinology, whether it's oncology, hematology, we're supposed to know enough to be able to identify what it is and get you to the right specialist. And then the specialist is supposed to know all the esoteric stuff. And they're supposed to, be able to figure that out. And we do have some, medical conditions that can stump us. And I've told patients that you might have, when patients would come to me going, no doctor can figure this out. No doctor can figure out what I have. And I'm not here to brag, okay, because I don't know everything. But I would try a couple different things, and I found some amazing success. I told you guys about how I help people get pregnant by telling them, what to do in terms of, holding off, losing some of the sperm, figuring out when you're ovulating. Then don't have sex every day, have sex every other day, because it takes a couple days for the sperm to travel. So you might as well, recharge. And that seemed to work. I had some people with recalcitrant depression and anxiety who were vegan. And I said, just for poops and giggles, try a little bit of protein, try some fish, try some chicken. And huge success. I'm not saying everybody with depression and anxiety need meat, but, in some cases, when they said nothing's helping me, none of the medicines, my psychiatrist can't help me, nothing's working. I'm like, let's try this. I love that you're vegan, but maybe we need to get some fish into you or an egg. And it was amazing. And I don't want to upset vegans that I converted a couple of them, because I've actually converted more people to vegetarianism and veganism than unconverted. But sometimes, somebody needs something, and it's our job as doctors to kind of help figure that out. So when you have AI discovering, this was a research at Boston Children's Hospital. They used AI tools to help diagnose 18 children with previously undiagnosed diseases. AI is pretty impressive. And I was watching Clarkson's Farm. It's in its 5th season now, I think. Is it season 5? And so Jeremy Clarkson is going with Caleb to look at some of the new farming equipment. And you see the farming equipment utilize AI and technology, where rather than you sending out soil samples, the AI can figure it out. And then it can decide where you need to put the pesticide, as opposed to just blanketly using pesticide all, over the field. You can actually spot drop it with drones on the areas that have the weeds or that need the pesticides. I mean, when you look at what AI can do, I mean, it is, mind-boggling. It's earth-shattering. And the efficiency of it, and some of the things it could do. If humans are missing cancers on mammograms, and we're hearing study after study where an AI tool is finding cancer that doctors are missing, no wonder there's this huge drive and there's this huge push for AI. And I'm not bucking it. I'm not fighting it, because you can't. I mean, there's nothing I can say or do. But I am very, very concerned that it is taking the jobs of millions. And if an employer can use technology to do something that they would hire humans for, what are humans going to do for jobs? So it's concerning. And what these AI CEOs are saying is no, because we're going to need to hire people to manage the AI. They said, look at what happened when we had calculators and iPhones. We still had jobs. Because people had to make the iPhones. People had to work on the tech. People had to do IT. Yeah, but I don't want to do IT. Okay, I want to do medicine. And I got to tell you, there was another patient that I saw. The telemedicine company I work for, I love. But they have a asynchronous asset. There's a couple I work for. And one of them has an asynchronous where the patient puts in their information, and then it gives us It gives us the option to use our own diagnosis or the AI diagnosis. Again, I disagreed with the AI diagnosis. I thought the person had something called perioral dermatitis, but the AI thought it was poison ivy of the face. And because the person thought, well, I might have touched poison ivy, that triggered the AI to go a certain way. And the vulnerabilities is what bothers me about it. Not only the job loss, is how you could manipulate the AI. If you put in trigger words, look at, for those of us who have gotten canceled on social media, or canceled not by libs, but by the software. Some word, something triggers a lockdown. And remember I told you gas prices were high during the Biden administration. So I posted a picture of my gas. I think I had I think my car needed like $80 or $100. I don't know what I spent. I think I filled up the truck, so it was like $120. And I was like, I'm going to need a sugar daddy. That immediately caused the software to completely block, think I was trying to prostitute myself or try to find and so, we're starting to learn how AI ticks. And whoever hacked my Twitter account, I think might have figured out what needed to be done to trigger that lockdown. And I really do think there's people out there, because I keep hearing from especially a lot of AM radio hosts where they've had issues with their, where they've gotten hacked. And I wonder if there's these powers that be that go, look, we know exactly how to trigger this. We'll get into their account, use whatever code words we need, and we know how to lock it all down. So the fact that AI could be manipulated is scary and is frightening to me, because we're thinking, wow, if AI can figure out a person's medical diagnosis, then they're going to have empathy. They're going to not recommend somebody, die to save money and save resources. No, that's exactly what they'll do. You give AI the question, what do we do about world hunger? What do we do about our climate if AI thinks that humans are causing climate change? How do we fix these problems? AI is going to say, eliminate people. Work less to increase their longevity. Do more population control. That's what AI is going to do. And recommend. And you're going to have humans stupid enough to go, well, this is what we're doing. And so, yes, I am humbled and I am amazed and I am grateful that AI offers such efficiency and could save lives and could have huge benefits. But I can't unsee the risks. And I don't see how to stop him. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Looking for an easy read that can actually help secure someone's future? Pick up a copy of Mark Falter's book, Common Sense Income Strategies. For the past 30-plus years, Mark has helped thousands of hardworking Americans secure their financial future by using strategies that continue to create wealth, whether the market is up or down. Strategies that will make perfect sense once you take the time to read this powerful book. Common Sense Income Strategies brings to you what Mark has been teaching in person and talking about on the radio for decades. It's not rocket science, it's a pretty easy read. You've worked too long and too hard not to see the fruits of your labor. Common Sense Income Strategies is available now on Amazon or by calling 866-764-2635. That's 866-764-2635. Common Sense Income Strategies by financial fitness show host Mark Falter. Secure your financial future today.